What's going on, bottom line viewers? It's Mitch here with your early look ahead for NFL Week 13. Week 12 was an awesome week. I hope you took advantage of some of the spreads that I was all over because I know I personally had a successful week. So I hope that transferred to some of your bets, and hopefully you also had a successful week. And what I'm going to try to do here is help you have another successful week. I feel like I'm in a rhythm. I feel like I'm in the flow, and I feel like I have a good handle of the NFL at this moment in time. And hopefully moving forward for the rest of this 2021 NFL season. So let's look for some winners, and let's take a look at each line. Let's take a look at each total, and let's look at some potential areas where we can take advantage here in NFL Week 13. Before I give you my thoughts and my picks and my analysis on every game from a betting perspective, make sure that you do spike that like button. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more NFL bottom line view early looks every single week. Also, spike that notification bell so you're notified when I'm live and when I upload all my videos. All right, so let's kick it off. Waste no more time. Again, guys, you can check me out on Patreon for every single week's bets in the NFL. $5 tier, that's the second tier up. You will get all of my bets, and I break them down every week on Patreon. So if you're interested in that, check it out. Link is in the description. I'll also put the link in the top comment as well. Check out my picks on Patreon, including we got the BLV vs. Consensus podcast where we break down every single game, myself and a couple others. So make sure you check that out. Let's get to Thursday Night Football with the Dallas Cowboys and the New Orleans Saints. So we've got a little bit of a curveball here thrown into things. The Cowboys will be without their head coach, Mike McCarthy. It's going to be probably, my guess, I'm not exactly sure 100%, so don't take my word for it. My guess is that it will be Dan Quinn, who is the head coach, so to speak, for this team during this game. Now, typically we've seen Dan Quinn call plays for the defense in the box. I think that Dan Quinn will be the head coach. Could it be Kellen Moore? Potentially. I don't think it really changes much. I think the only thing you've got to look for is which coach is going to be in charge of time management and timeouts and things of that nature. And it obviously makes sense to go towards a guy like Dan Quinn, who's been a head coach, right? He's been a head coach as recently as last year. So this guy has plenty of familiarity. He's been to the Super Bowl. He's had plenty of success. This is a guy you can turn your team over in a week of need, and he'll probably be able to execute that job, right? Kellen Moore is more focused on calling offensive plays, and he's never been a head coach. So it doesn't really make sense to thrust him into that position. That would probably be too much to ask at this point. Just give it to Dan Quinn. He can still call the defense while being in charge of game management and probably having some sort of help from the box of somebody that's in charge of their challenges and things of that nature, as does every other team. So the Mike McCarthy role will most likely be replaced by Dan Quinn. Now, does that mean that the Dallas Cowboys are going to be up 28-3 and give up a lead? I mean, potentially. There's always a chance for that with Dan Quinn, but I'm probably going to say no here. When we look at the total and the spread, Dallas is favored by 5.5. Now, the tricky thing with the Saints and the Cowboys is that the Saints are likely to get some of their players back. They have had Kamara limited early in the week, Ryan Ramczyk limited early in the week. If they get those players back, they're a significantly different offense and different looking team. On the other hand, the Dallas Cowboys could see CeeDee Lamb come back this week, most likely. Amari Cooper could be on his way back as well. So their offense could look entirely different. Overall, this is a challenging one to handicap because of all the moving parts. I do look at the over as a possibility here at 47.5. I think the amount that the New Orleans Saints play man coverage could be troublesome when you play a team like Dallas, who's got so many different receiving options that can win. And you've got Michael Gallup, CeeDee Lamb, potentially Amari Cooper, all challenging matchups. You can't just stick Marshawn Lattimore on one of those players. So the ability to move the football there, along with the ability to run it a little bit for Dallas, they could move the ball a little bit in this game. On the flip side, with the improvement up front on the offensive line, with a switch at quarterback with Taysom Hill, and then with Alvin Kamara, maybe Sean Payton has a game plan that can throw the Dallas Cowboys defense off. The Dallas Cowboys defense has not been very good recently, and I think it's been overrated in terms of actually keeping points off the board in yards, right? I feel like they create big plays, but big plays actually doesn't lean towards unders. It actually leans towards overs most of the time. So that's probably the way that I would look in this game if I were to look at all. The spread is just, it's on the road. It's in New Orleans. I get Dallas is coming off a loss, and they're getting pieces back, but so are the Saints. Plus, the whole thing with McCarthy being out does scare me too much to really be interested in laying it, at least at this moment in time. I might change my mind, but that's the way I see it right now here on a Monday for Thursday Night Football. Let's get to the Sunday games. We've got the Arizona Cardinals and the Chicago Bears. Cardinals are favored by 7 in this game as of right now. I think that's about right considering Kyler Murray should be back for this game. I would think it would be a little bit more, to be honest. I don't think the Bears are a very good football team. If the Cardinals, whether they have, Kyler Murray, obviously, but even if they have Colt McCoy, there's a chance they can cover this. Now, it's on the road. Soldier Field can be a little bit sloppy and things like that. I'm not aware of the weather, so I'm not really sure in that regard. But I think a lot of people are overrating the Bears a little bit. Now, the Bears have, I believe, a 10-day rest, while the Cardinals had a bye last week. So the bye week thing is kind of mitigated by the Bears only having really 4 days of a difference there, because the Thanksgiving is like a mini bye, right? So the bye week is not such a big deal in terms of the rest difference between the two teams. But what is a difference is the talent level between the two teams. I expect DeAndre Hopkins to be back off the bye, and at least if he's back, I'm very confident in the Cardinals here. You also look at a Bears front that has been decimated by injuries on defense. They aren't the same defense in that regard. Their secondary isn't very good. And offensively, they just struggle to move the ball consistently versus just about anybody. Allen Robinson's been dealing with some issues. Really, their only option is Darnell Mooney. And I've got to give a lot of credit to Vance Joseph for his defense this season. It's been very consistent and reliable, and you know what you're getting. It's not elite, but it makes plays. It creates pressure. And a guy like Andy Dalton is going to probably suffer in that regard. So I would lean towards taking the Cardinals early in this week, regardless of the quarterback situation, to cover this number. Obviously, it does mean that it's probably a little bit iffy, but I do feel like the Cardinals are one of the better teams in football, and I don't really look at the Bears and say that they are a threat whatsoever. They, to me, are the second worst team in the NFC. There's the Lions, and then it's the Bears. And I think Thanksgiving football confirmed that. So unless the Bears are just getting much healthier somehow, I don't see how this game is that close. So I would go with the Cardinals here in that one. Next up, we got the Indianapolis Colts at the Houston Texans. This is another one where I lean towards the favorite, right? It's under double digits. It's 8.5. Now, I saw numbers earlier in the week, even last week, where it was like closer to 7.5, which if you grab that, good on you, because that's pretty awesome. I feel like the Colts are still a look here under 10. I feel like they should be able to win this game by double digits. They're the superior team. They're actually one of the hottest teams in football. Now, they're coming off a loss to the Bucs, but that's the Bucs, right? That's Tom Brady. A lot of teams lose to Tom Brady, okay? So I wouldn't be too much lower in my stock of the Colts. They need all the victories they can get to stay in this playoff wildcard race, and I think they believe that they can be like a team that does something in the playoffs if they can make it. So I think they're full steam ahead. I think they're pretty healthy overall. Hopefully DeForest Buckner's all right for this one. I saw he got a little bit dinged up in that game. I think Quentin Nelson should be good to go once again. And I don't really see anything with the Colts that makes me scared off of this one. Now, the Texans have been getting a lot of respect when when Tyrod Taylor, you wish it was Kyler Murray, Texans fans. When Tyrod Taylor is in the lineup at quarterback, they get a lot more respect as a team. And I get it, Tyrod Taylor's a big upgrade over what they had previously. But I just don't think he's like a real game changer or anything. This is a divisional matchup. There's always the chance for funkiness, but I look at two teams in different directions, moving in different directions. The Texans fight hard every week, but I just don't feel they match up very well. I think the Colts can run the ball fairly well in this one. They want to reestablish that after a game where they weren't so good versus the Bucs in that regard. And then you look defensively, and the Colts are pretty solid, right? They're not elite. They're not a game-changing unit, but they stop the run well. They force the quarterback to take some short throws and checkdowns. They don't give up a lot of big plays. They're fast in the middle of their defense. Darius Leonard's an animal, right? And I don't really think the Texans are going to be moving the ball up and down the field here. I think the Colts should be able to get out to a steady lead here, run the ball, milk the clock, and come out with a double-digit victory, and a one that they really need in the AFC. So I think the Colts win. I think the Colts cover there. That would be my look for this game. Next, we've got the Eagles and the Jets. The total's 45.5, and the Eagles are favored by 6.5. Once again, I'd look towards the favorite. I don't really have any inclination to lay the points with the Eagles because I'm just not super sold on the Eagles. But I do think there's some funkiness that happened last week, right? I said last week that the Giants would keep this game close. I wasn't really sure why, right? Because the Giants are a little bit better than I think people give them credit for. They're not one of the absolute worst teams in the league. Now, here's the thing. The Jets are one of the absolute worst teams in the league, if not the worst team in the league. I mean, they're really, really bad. Now, they beat the Texans, which is, again, another positive note for the Colts to take the Colts in that game. But I look to the Jets and I say they stink. Their defense stinks. Particularly, they have not been very good versus the run this season. And also, they're giving up some big plays down the field occasionally. I feel like Jalen Hurts can make some plays down the field throwing the ball. I also think that their run game with the Eagles can be really dominant once again. I mean, this team, even in their loss, was dominant. They ran for over 200 yards versus the Giants. It was kind of one of those fluky outcomes. They almost don't deserve to lose that game. At the very least, it should have been a 3-point spread. So I feel like the Eagles are the way that I would go under 7. If it gets upwards to, we're getting closer to 7.5, 8, then maybe I lay off of it. But at 6.5, 6, I'm looking to lay the points with the Eagles. I do like Zach Wilson, but he's shown me really nothing to believe that he's going to pull off this upset. I just don't believe in the Jets coaching staff at all. I look at a team that doesn't really know who they are. They're not a very talented football team, and the Eagles can dominate the line of scrimmage and win this football game. And I truly believe that is what's going to happen because, yes, the Eagles dropped a game, but they still do somehow, some way have a chance in this wild card in the NFC. So I'm going to take the Eagles there to cover that game and bounce back. Next up, we've got the Vikings and the Detroit Lions. This is a total of 47, and the Vikings are favored by 7. Now, the obvious NFL person and analyst in my mind suggests that the Vikings should easily win this game, but this is a game that I feel like if you're going to play it, you probably should just tease the Vikings down to -1. I'm probably not looking to play the total because of the way that the Vikings are and the way that the Lions are. They're kind of, I guess the Vikings reliably score points, but there have been weeks where they don't exactly show up on that side of the ball like they did the first time when they played the Lions. I mean, the first time they played the Lions could have won that game, right? And this is what scares me about the Lions is, for whatever reason, the Lions somehow, some way do pull off a victory, even when they're really bad, versus the Vikings. Like, over the course of history, that does seem to happen every once in a while. So that's why I'm not going to make this like a must bet where you have to lay the 7, go with the Vikings. I feel like if you're going to play this, put the Vikings in a teaser and make them a -1 and just move on from there. That's the way that I would play this game. I probably am not going to go -7 just because the Vikings are not very trustworthy. They do have a lot of beat up players on defense. And Dalvin Cook, not being there, I guess, is not a huge loss because Alexander Mattison is a good running back. But there could be just this Lions NFC North vibe that doesn't sit right with me when I'm laying that 7 points. So I would probably just put it in a teaser leg. Next up, we've got the Giants and the Miami Dolphins. Miami is favored by a field goal, 3 points it is. The total is 41.5 here. I would probably look, I understand these are two teams that are good defensive teams first. They're both from the New England tree in terms of that regard, and both head coaches are from the New England tree, so they're not going to try to beat themselves. They're going to try to protect the ball. They're going to play field position. They're going to play defense first. So the low total makes a lot of sense to me, but honestly, that's a very low number for 2021 NFL. I'd probably look to play the over just out of principle there, but when you look at Miami -3, it's tough. I mean, I probably am not going to bet on this game, just because I still don't trust the Dolphins. I just don't. They had an impressive win versus the Carolina Panthers, and I was totally off on that game. So if you want to play the opposite when I'm betting against the Dolphins, then go ahead. I just don't have a good feel for Miami overall. And then when you look at the Giants, I kind of do have a good feel for the Giants. They're just a hard team to trust. Daniel Jones is a hard guy to trust. This offensive line's a hard line to trust. These are two of the worst offensive lines in football, period, right? And it depends how healthy the Giants are at the skill positions to really move the football in this game. So I'm probably just going to lay off this game completely, but the low total is a little bit enticing. It's not like these offenses are totally dreadful, so yeah. Freddie Kitchens' second week didn't super impress me in the first week. Next game, we've got the Los Angeles Chargers and the Cincinnati Bengals, and this one kind of immediately stood out to me a little bit. When you think about this game, I think a lot of people in their minds still value the Chargers as a better team than the Bengals, but I think that's been proven incorrect. I don't think the Chargers are one of these teams that should, without a doubt, be trusted as a playoff team. I don't think that's the case. They're too inconsistent. Their defense has too many fatal flaws. They can't stop the run, and their offense is just too vanilla. It doesn't really give me anything that's exciting other than just the pure talent that they offer with the quad, right? They've got Justin Herbert, Austin Eckler, Mike Williams, and Keenan Allen. Besides that, the talent is just average. And then besides that, the scheme is below average. And that's really what's killing this football team, in my personal opinion. You look at the Bengals, they're coaching well. I really like the way Zach Taylor is coaching this team. They're looking to run the ball first. They're almost playing like the Browns did last year, where they're relying on their running game. They're protecting their quarterback. They're protecting a weak offensive line by running Joe Mixon, and he's playing really, really well. And they're a good run blocking line. And off of that, Joe Burrow's able to make some plays down the field. That could really be a formula that is good to beat the Chargers. Also in Cincinnati, it might be a little bit colder than the Chargers are used to in LA, right? We've seen this matchup in the 80s happen before. This is a total of 50.5. I'd probably lean towards the over. I'm going to be completely honest there. These are two teams that are more offense than defense. But I will say the Bengals defense has the capacity here to make it challenging on the Chargers. I do think that they're well coached. I do think they can get a little bit of a pass rush. They stop the run well up the middle. DJ Reader's a great player. And their secondary is very underrated. I feel like they have a good handle for certain schemes and things. When you watch them play the Steelers, they're just all over it. And that to me speaks to great coaching. But I think the Bengals are the side here. I think anything under a field goal is the way that I would lean. I think they're the better team. And they have matchups where I really look at it and say, if the Bengals can run the ball, they can control pace of play, and they can come out the winner at home. So I like the Bengals there personally. Next up, we've got the Tampa Bay Buccaneers -11 with a total of 50.5 at Atlanta. Now, I'm not going to bet on Atlanta. You couldn't do anything to me to bet on Atlanta. I mean, bullet to my head, I'd never bet to Atlanta. But you've got the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who are coming off a big win. They covered versus the Colts, although it wasn't exactly the prettiest thing I've ever seen. They covered on the road, a place that they've struggled to really perform and cover, and they did it, and I said they'd do it. And I think they're kind of in this rhythm that they're getting in playoff mode, and they're trying to execute. They've cut down the penalties. They've cut down the turnovers, and those are two things that can help them perform. And as long as those things keep happening, this team's in good shape. Now, couple injuries coming out of that game. Devin White, a little bit banged up. Jamel Dean, a little bit banged up. Jamel Dean, I think, will be back for this game. He left the Colts game, which is a reason Michael Pittman had a lot more success in certain aspects, in certain areas, especially in that second quarter, and then it settled down a little bit where the Bucs actually blew out the Colts in the second half 24-7, and that was a big exclamation point that I don't think enough people are really taking away from that game. But you've got the Bucs -11. The only way I'd play this is to go potentially with the Bucs, but I just think 11's a lot of points versus a division rival on the road, and especially because the Bucs have struggled on the road. I do expect the Bucs to put up a lot of points. I'm not sure what their team total is here, but I expect them to put up in the 30s. Another way you could maybe play it is the under. Now, here's the thing. Atlanta has been very good at scoring on Todd Bowles' defense, especially Matt Ryan's been pretty good in these last 3 to 4 games since Tom Brady's gotten to Tampa Bay. They have moved the ball. The problem has been they haven't stopped Tom Brady. But the way that the Atlanta offense looks right now, it's pretty pathetic overall. But I don't know if I really have a good bet for this game. Obviously, I'm pro Tampa. I think they're a very good team. I think when they're healthy, they're the best team in the league. Carlton Davis could be back for this game. I don't expect Antonio Brown to be back, although I hope he's back for my fantasy team purposes. But I think the Bucs would be the way to go. I think possibly the under would be the way to go, but I'm not completely in love with that either. So I'd probably just tell you to pass here. And the 11 makes it really difficult to tease this game. So I'll just lay off for now. The Jacksonville Jags and the Los Angeles Rams. Rams are minus 13, which just feels like too many points for a team that's not playing very good football. Although it's at home, they play the Jags, the Jags are not a very good team. Their offense is completely terrible. They're completely terrible. Now, I will say this. If they can run the ball, they can actually stay in this game. And then the other thing with the Jags is their defense isn't half bad. Their defense has been performing a lot better down the stretch. They've been a lot better. So I think if I play this game, I'm playing the under 48. That's the way I would look at it. I wouldn't even be surprised if the Rams sat down Matthew Stafford for this game. At least that's what I would do. I feel like he's beat up. He's not healthy. That's why he's not playing that well. I would look, if I was Sean McVay, to rest him for this game. I think they can win without him versus Jacksonville. Now, it's in LA, which makes me maybe a little bit more intrigued to lay the points. I just think it's too many points to lay with a team that's not playing good football. So I'm going to go with the under 48 on this one. Next up, we've got Washington and Las Vegas. Now, Washington's currently playing right now. I've got the game on the background versus Seattle Seahawks. And Washington's a team that's been really difficult for me to get a good feel for. And, I've only really bet on their games 2 or 3 times throughout the year. Not very many times. I could probably remember the ones that I did. The total is 49. I believe it's actually Las Vegas minus 2.5. I think I messed up the graphic. But regardless of that, so just keep in mind Las Vegas minus 2.5. I lean towards Vegas, right? They have a bigger break. They have a rest advantage of about 4 days, short week for Washington. Vegas coming off of the Thanksgiving game. Vegas coming off of a big momentum builder. Now, that could be possibly a letdown spot as well, but they're back at home. Great energy in Vegas. Vegas usually plays well at home. I think their defense gets a boost at home. I look at Washington's offense and say they're not a very good offense, especially in the red zone where they struggle. And then you look at Las Vegas and the way that they played offense versus Dallas. If they can protect Carr at home, he's been really, really good. So you're getting the far superior quarterback, the superior offense, and the defenses have been about the same. I feel like the Vegas Raiders are the better team. They clearly have more to play for, and they're at home. So I would probably lean towards just taking the Raiders under a field goal here to cover the game. But there are 2 teams that I can understand you would stay away from because they're completely unreliable and inconsistent. So that's the way I look at it. 49 is a tricky number. I feel like that could be an overlook, but not exactly 100% sure. Next up, we got the Baltimore Ravens and the Pittsburgh Steelers. The total is 44. The spread is 3.5. Baltimore looked not very good, but their defense did a good job versus the Cleveland Browns on Sunday Night Football, good enough for them to win. On the other hand, the offense, Lamar Jackson looked very rusty and looked terrible, to be quite honest with you. Now, on the other hand, Pittsburgh looks like one of the worst teams in football after that loss to Cincinnati, where Ben Roethlisberger looks like he should be in a retirement home. The offensive line is a disaster. Their run game is very, very bad, and their defense is completely overrated. Just for that fact, I feel like you could play the over 44 just because the Steelers' defense is completely overrated, and the Ravens' defense has been so inconsistent. So I could see an over here, but I'm going to just say take Baltimore minus 3.5. They're the far superior team. They're fighting for the number 1 seed in the AFC. The Steelers stink. They can't score any points, and it's the same reason I took Baltimore over Cleveland minus the same number, because Cleveland can't score. So a team that can't score versus Lamar Jackson is the way that I'm going to lean. So I'm going to go with Baltimore minus 3.5 in that one. We got the 49ers and the Seattle Seahawks. Total is 46.5. San Fran minus 2.5. I like the 49ers minus the 2.5. Now, they might not have Deebo Samuel. The report is he'll be out for 1 to 2 weeks. So that is a loss. There's no doubt about it. But their O-line is completely dominant right now. Trent Williams is the best left tackle in football at this moment in time. It's not even close. Mitchell's been really, really good at running back. Brandon Ayuk is back, and we'll see more play now. And George Kittle has been dominant as well. Jimmy G has been low-key, he's been better than Russell Wilson, period. And I feel like he's been one of the more efficient quarterbacks in football, even with some of the mistakes he makes. Defensively, I still lean 49ers with their pass rush ability to get after Russell Wilson. And I feel like the 49ers minus 2.5, I just don't see them. I believe they lost to them earlier in the year. I think. I just don't see them losing to them again. Like, I just have that feeling where I think the Niners are just, they're the team on a roll. They've got a lot of confidence. Kyle Shanahan has everything going on offense, right? Their offense looks like one of the better ones in the league right now. I go with the Niners all day in that game. We got Sunday Night Football. The Denver Broncos at the Kansas City Chiefs. This is an Arrowhead off of a bye for Andy Reid, of course, and he's been very good in his career off of a bye. But we have seen teams this year not be as good off of a bye, so we'll see how it goes for Kansas City. Kansas City minus a full 10 points versus a division rival. Now, this total is 47.5. I personally would take the under in this game. I think the Chiefs defense matches up fairly well with the Broncos offense, and I think the Broncos defense matches up fairly well with the Chiefs offense. I think this is just a lot of respect for the Chiefs, and if you're taking the under, I might put a little bit of money on the plus 10 as well for the Broncos. I think this game could be somewhat of a slugfest off of the bye for Kansas City. I do expect them to win the game. I'm just not fully confident they will cover the 10. I also think this game will be a little bit lower scoring than people expect. So give me the under and possibly also Denver plus 10. And then you look to Monday Night Football with the New England Patriots and the Buffalo Bills, which is definitely the game of the week. We've got Buffalo minus 3. I would take New England. Yes, again, I've got to say every week, I am a New England fan, but there's no debate around it. New England is playing the best football in football right now, and I think they're the best team in the AFC. They're underdogs in this game. We know how Bill Belichick is as an underdog. I do feel New England matches up extraordinarily well with the Buffalo Bills. The way that they're able to run the ball, possess the ball. Without Tre'Davious White, the pass game will be a little bit more open. Kendrick Bourne's playing good football. Jacoby Myers is playing good football. Hunter Henry's playing good football. Mac Jones, most importantly, is playing great football. Defensively, the best defense in football by far. They've got a lot of complexity to it. They've got a lot of different looks they can show Josh Allen and confuse him. The Bills are so one-dimensional. It's going to be difficult for them to phase this defense on a consistent basis unless Josh Allen goes nuclear. So for me, I like New England plus the 3 points. In terms of the total, it's a low total for a reason. Both teams kind of have a better defense. But I don't have a good feel either way. I could see the over. I could see the under. The one thing I will say about this game, I think the most underrated unit in the NFL right now at this moment is the Patriots offense. They punted once versus the Tennessee Titans. Once. Titans defense is good. Like, Titans defense can play. And they punted once, right? So New England's offense is very underrated. And that's something I will say to take advantage of going forward. But that is my feel for Week 13 and my early look for Week 13. If you enjoyed, make sure you do spike that like button. Don't forget to check out Patreon, link in the description, and subscribe to the channel for more BLV NFL just like this. Peace, guys.